Hello Anthony, thanks very much for letting me come into that lesson. It was really great. I really enjoyed that book that you read actually, with the pairs and the rhymes, and I hadn't seen that one before.
No, it's a poetry anthology we're working on at the moment, so just trying to get them to understand sort of, verse and things. It's quite interesting what they come up with. And
they seemed to enjoy the rhymes, didn't they? They were starting to join in with them really quickly when you were...
Yeah, I think some of them were familiar, with one or two of them, but what I was really concerned about was maybe perhaps they would change some words and some playground versions might find their way in, but yeah.
Well, you did well. I enjoyed it. We've got some time together now till about 11 o'clock, haven't we?
Okay.
Yeah? So just run through what we're going to do for that hour. Obviously, what you say to me today is confidential unless we agree together to take anything any further. So we'll have a chat about the lesson. And I've written down loads of things here that you did really well in the lesson, so I'd like a chance to feed them back to you. Okay. Well, then we'll have a chat about the area that you said earlier on that you would like to talk about with those three boys and the difficulty with
that would be useful, yeah.
And towards the end of the session, I'll give you a bit of time just to think on your own about everything that we've said in the session, so that you can decide what you might want to take forward and change in your practice in the next couple of weeks. Okay. Let me start by saying a couple of things that I've noticed that you did excellently in the lesson, because sometimes we don't notice the things that we're doing and we don't realise that we're doing them, and until someone has the privilege of observing, they can tell you what it is you're actually doing. One of the things you did was you welcomed them a lot when you were at the door. You were using a lot of non-verbal cues, really smiling, and a lot of kind of just chat with them. How did break time go? Did you have a nice time out in the playground? That kind of stuff, and that really shows your relationship with the pupils.
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you. I mean, I guess, like you say, you don't often hear positives.
No, that's true. Did you know that you were doing that kind of stuff, or was that?
Oh no, I think you just do it.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think about, oh, I'll go around and give somebody a thumbs up, but I'll probably just part of who I am, really.
Yeah.
Try and be as positive as I can. There's the Dean, there's Josh and there's Sean, who I personally feel are quite challenging, and what that tends to result in is I feel that I'm ploughing in a lot of attention, a lot of focus on those three. You were sat in the room. I mean, what's your opinion? What's your impression of? Do you think I'm losing the rest of the class?
Well, what I'd say is that those routines were really helping most of the children do the right thing most of the time.
Okay.
There was those kind of the 2 or 3 kids that you found that were quite hard, and as you say, quite a little bit of disruption going on. But most of the kids, as soon as you wanted them to go to their tables, off they went. As soon as you asked them to stop, they stopped.
Okay. So are you? So routines. I suppose routines do help, don't they?
Yeah. Well, there were the routines that I noticed this morning that it sounds like you hadn't done consciously. You'd just kind of set up because you'd seen them over the years, or...
So perhaps making those things more explicit, or...
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a little bit about your beliefs, Anthony.
Okay.
If I draw a scale here of... say 0 is where they've never do what you ask them at all, ever. And 10 is the opposite of that, where they always do everything you like, absolutely. Now, give me an indication where you would place your class now on that scale.
So 0 is they never do
anything you want them to do.
And 10 is they're doing it all of the time?
All the time, yeah. Where would you place your class now?
What, today or generally?
Yeah, generally.
A 6.
Right, okay. So most of them would be doing... Is that 6 the right way out?
Yeah, you're doing very well. That's very impressive.
Upside down. So that was today. Okay. Most of them doing most of the things most of the time. Yeah, is that how you describe a number 6?
I would use the word most, with the obvious exceptions of my particulars, my particular chaps. Whom I have to say I'm very fond of, but do drive me insane.
So tell me what's going well at a 6. Some of the things that they're doing.
Those 3 boys or the class?
Yeah, the class. What's putting them at a 6?
They're following instruction. I don't expect them to do it first time. I expect them to follow it maybe 1 2 times of asking. At the end of the day, we all need reminders, don't we?
Yeah.
They're listening carefully.
Where would you place them in September, Anthony?
In September?
Yeah, when you took over that class.
4.
Right.
4. They weren't.
So somewhere down here.
Certainly weren't as good as but that's obviously with those 3. Yeah, 4 for the most of them, because they have, yeah, I suppose looking at that, they've actually come quite well.
Well, yeah,
really,
because obviously my next question to you is, that's brilliant. Well, you've obviously done lots of things, haven't you, to move them from a 4 to a 6.
Never thought of it like that, actually.
What are those things? It might be really useful for us to tease out those things that you've done that have moved them from a 4 to the 6.
I think I take your point about routines, although I'm not explicit enough about them now, perhaps. It might be something I think the routines, having clear routines is helped.
Because you said you did that at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one of the things.
Setting some clear rules,
yeah,
but involving them in the rules, and I think
yes, well, you said that earlier about how they were
something we've done for the first time this year, and setting rules with them very much. And so, I mean, I've wanted to do it for a number of years, but it's always been you give them the rules because they're the school rules. You know, we have golden rules, and that's what everybody has. But I think making them quite personal to them this year has really, really helped. Yeah,
so they understand them a bit better, don't they? No.
I suppose actually just trying to have good, positive systems in the class, really.
What you find then is that most of the class follow most of the routines most of the time that you set up.
Yeah, and I think again, you know, obviously, like I do sort of put Dean, Josh, and Sean as a separate thing, but most of the class do actually follow the routines. So yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Yeah, they do follow routines. Yeah,
that's great. Tell me a bit more about Dean, Sean, and who is it? Josh?
Dean, Sean, and Josh. Well, I kind of suppose that it's constant disruption. It's not following instruction. I just don't feel like I'm getting anywhere with them.
You're finding that's not working.
And as a result, I feel like I'm losing the rest of them altogether.
Right. So your usual tactics that you'd usually employ, you don't feel they're getting through to these 3 at all?
No.
No. And it sounds like it's using quite a lot of your energy to work out what you're going to do with them and to address them in the classrooms.
It's very tiring. It's very, very tiring. It's a drain, and you know I suppose part of me, not only is it draining, it's incredibly challenging to me, because like I would say most teachers, I like to think the one thing I can do in my classroom is manage children and have good relationships with children.
Yeah.
But I don't feel I'm getting there with these 3.
Right.
And I find that personally quite challenging.
When you're in the classroom, and that is kind of obviously making you fairly anxious, you say, and it's making you quite tired throughout the day. How do you think that's affecting your behaviour with those 3?
I think part of me says that because it's taking so much time, because there's so much anxiety in the way they make me feel challenged, I think sometimes I feel a little bit of sort of a real negative feeling towards them,
right.
Which isn't fair, because I do actually like them. And on an individual basis, I'm sure you've heard this loads of times, but on an individual basis they're lovely on a one-on-one, but get them collective in that group, I suppose frustration is a word that comes to mind as well with those 3, because on a one-to-one you can do some really good work with them.
So you feel quite frustrated and you feel quite anxious about what you're going to do with them, and frustrated. But I have to say that when you did talk to each one of them in the lesson, you did have a great conversation with them, and they were laughing, and they were all doing that pairs work, weren't they? They weren't necessarily doing it all at the right time, those 3, or when you'd asked them to on their own, but when you were doing it with them, they did really well, and they were coming up with the rhyming pairs brilliantly.
On a one-to-one in the classroom, I mean, I'm glad you said that, because the frustration is, of course, I've been saying this to people, and people have been saying, oh no, Anthony, you'll be fine, you can carry on. It's not like that. It is a real issue in the classroom.
So it sounds like you've sort of fallen into a bit of habitual behaviour, where you're behaving some way and they're behaving some way, and that's what happens when you get into the classroom. You all start behaving in that certain way.
Yeah, and I suppose on reflection, I think I probably am different with them. I think I'm probably very different with them on an individual basis, and in a whole class situation. I think on an individual basis I can be quite low key, and I think I can be quite positive and humorous and use humour. But I'm just very, very aware that I'm anxious about trying that in a whole class situation in case they take advantage of that.
Right. Well, let's think about those exceptions then. That time when it does work with them. Tell me what you're doing when it does work with them. Even if it's at the tiniest sort of way possible, when they are best.
When they're best, there's no audience. There's no other children, or if there are children, they're only immediately either side of them and they're engaged in something. And it's very much just me and either Dean, Josh or Sean.
Right.
This, I think, probably, Yeah, I think probably actually, yeah, that's the time when it works best. And it's just, and actually it's usually just a very quiet, subtle word, or it can be like a little cue, or it can just be I go and stand by them, something like that.
That's what you're doing?
Yeah.
So you'd just be near them, would you?
Yeah. Yeah, and also probably...
Not necessarily talking?
No. Probably something like, you know, I don't know, well, it's going to sound really funny now, but how you getting on Sunshine, how's it working?
Oh, right,
quite
so
low-key
just
like
some
that.
kind of...
Try to chivvy them on a little bit.
Kind of quite a matey, friendly kind of comment.
Yeah.
We've had a chat before about what we're hoping to achieve with the coaching. What do you hope to end up with after our session? What do you hope to get out of our conversation this morning?
I think it's kind of from when Mary told me you were coming in and support. I think I'd really like to find out a couple of things really. About the balance between the key characters in my class and my attention with the rest of the class, and hopefully some strategies for trying to deal with those tricky characters, so that I can actually go back next session and start to implement something realistic and that I can use.
So something about the needs of the other children, as well as one or two children that you're concerned about. So that's for the class. What about for you yourself? What would you like to get out of this session for you yourself as a teacher, as well as these strategies, approaches, idea? How would you like to feel at the end of the session?
I think probably more positive about that I can make something happen, particularly for the three young men. I don't know if you picked them up, Dean, Josh and Sean, but probably feeling like I can actually make a difference to them really, and as a result of that, at the same time, know that I'm making a difference to them, so actually know I can do something more with the rest of the class and help them out more.
So making a difference for them, is that important to you?
For both the class and the boys?
And for individual children?
Yeah, it is important to me, yes, it is important to me.
And can you tell me why it's important to you?
Because I want to give these three lads a chance to move forward, but at the same time I want the rest of the class to feel like it's a better situation, it's more positive for them.
What I find interesting is that when you talk about the individual children, it's almost as though Josh, Sean and Dean are one person. You know, is it possible for you to describe one of them, or to tell me about how you've managed to get Josh to work independently? How do you set it up for the rest of the children? For
the class or for the individual?
How do you explain to the children, all the children, how they're going to work? How they're going to do that task, that independent task? Oh, right, okay. Basically, we have partner voices, or it's silent, or it's part discussion, free discussion. That's the four sort of volume things, and it corresponds to the sort of lights I've got on the board. So when there's a certain amount of clarity in what your expectations are, and you make it very clear about what the children are going to do, you find that's working. Sometimes. For some of the children, some of the time. So what do you feel you need to teach Josh in order to begin to access some of that structures that you've set up? What particular thing do you think he would be able to access most easily? What does he need to learn in order to begin to work independently? I don't know. There are so many things that spring to mind. So where am I going with all this is certainly all the things that you've set up in the room as regards to structures, about noise level and children applying themselves to the task. It works for some of the children some of the time. Yeah. And what I'm curious about is for you to be able to think about what's the next step that you need to do with Josh in order to get him also. I was hoping that perhaps you might be able to give me something on that, because I'm just wondering what I can do next, really. Because what you're telling me is that you're a teacher who's thought quite a lot about how you're going to get a settled atmosphere in your room and children working well. You've been very thoughtful. I don't know where you've got some of your ideas from, but you've got lots of systems in there. And yet there's a sense that you feel that they're not working for one or two children.
No, I mean, there's systems that have come from last year that are working for the majority, and they've been successful last year, and I just have hit a bit of a brick wall with these three because the systems that I normally rely on just aren't working.
And at the start of term, how was it?
Honeymoon period, like we all, you know, all get that start of the term. They come in, they don't know you, they're just getting to know you. It was a bit honeymoon period-y.
And would it also be fair for me to say that it was also the time when you were setting these things up?
Yeah, we had a period of setting the rules, and we had a lot of circle time around rules, and they were kind of a focus for a week, but that was something we decided as a school we would do, and yeah, it worked quite, I suppose that did work quite well. And
you were being very specific and explaining things with the children, and...
Yeah, we talked a lot about, I suppose we did, in fairness I suppose we did, because we did talk about how it would look, how it would feel. We tried to do posters and pictures about it. Unfortunately I've taken them down.
And when was the last time you kind of revisited that?
Well, September.
Okay, and we're now sort of November, December time.
Yeah.
Would this be an opportune time to actually remind the children or revisit some of those explanations again, in order for some individual children to get a reminder of some of the detail?
Yeah.
Is that something you think you could do?
I think that probably, yeah. I think that's fair. Probably should revisit it.
We've been talking for quite a few minutes now, going around and around the issue of getting the balance between needs of individual children and the whole class, and I'm just getting this feeling that this isn't working for you.
Okay.
Am I right about that?
Well, I mean, I feel that really I kind of want to make a difference, but I don't know what to do about these three, and I was kind of rather hoping you might sort of give me some ideas of what I could do, or at least show me what I could try.
So if I said to you, in an ideal world, you know, if you could do one thing to make it better, what would that be? In an ideal world.
In an ideal world.
In an ideal world.
The three lads would be in a provision that I think could meet their needs. To be honest.
The issue is that they're in your class.
True. True. Yes.
And what I'm having a problem with is that we've explored in quite a lot of detail about the approaches and things that you've put in place, which have a certain amount of success for some of the children some of the time, and it seems quite hard for you to be able to see that. Yeah.
Then that is fair. I think it's about. I actually don't believe I can make a difference.
So I've got a confusion then, because in the beginning that we were talking about, one of the things that you really hope is that when children leave your class, they go with this thought that everybody is a valid member, everyone has a valuable contribution, which doesn't sit easily with what's going on now. And it seems like your thoughts and beliefs about you accommodating that isn't really getting anywhere, and you're wanting me to be able to tell you how to do it.
Yeah, because I think I do want that. I think that is a vision that I want, but I don't think I can get it with these three, and I don't think I've got necessarily the approaches and strategies to do that.
So the reality is we've got these three children in your class.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you could wave a magic wand and a miracle's happened in your class, for everybody in your class, including those individual children, and you've woke up this morning and miracles happened to everybody. How is that? How does that feel for you?
I walk through the door and I see them as they're arriving. They're all coming in calmly.
And how are you feeling?
How am I feeling? Not nervous about going in, not worrying about what they're going to do. Just, okay, great, it's a day, feeling quite positive about going in, actually.
What are the children doing?
They'll be coming in quietly, calmly, and Josh, Sean and Dean will be engaging in the activity like on the same level that everybody else is. They won't be trying to cause a fuss, or they'll be going to their drawers and getting their reading books out, and they'll be coming in for Eric time, and they'll be sat down and everyone will be sat there reading. And
what are you doing while everyone's doing that?
What am I doing? I'd like to be pointing out and praising children without having to deal with, and I'm not having to deal with the trauma of getting those three settled, and I can actually just praise those people getting it right.
And what else is going on in the room? What are the other children doing? How are they looking at you, and how are they talking with each other? What else is happening?
They're doing not that much differently to what they're already doing. They're coming in, but they're recognising that I'm going to be watching them as much as I'm going to be watching those three. So perhaps they're making it clearer that they're doing the right things. They think they're going to get praised.
So how do you think the other children are feeling? That you're noticing them and giving them praise?
More noticed.
So they're feeling that you're noticing them and giving them praise.
Yeah.
How do you think Sean is feeling? He's getting his book out and he's getting his reading, and how do you think he's feeling? What's he doing?
I'd like to think he was feeling glad to be there.
Yeah. So Sean's feeling he wants to be there, and Dean and Josh?
And the same for those two, they're pleased to be coming
in school. And what are you doing in order to help them feel like that?
I'm pointing out all the good things that are happening, how well they're doing, how well they're settling in.
So in an ideal world, when we've got the miracle happening, what you're doing is noticing children behaving well, noticing children who are following the routines and the agreements of the class and remembering the rules. And children, they're responding to you.
Yeah.
And everyone is following your instructions. Is that how it'll be?
That's a good picture. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping.
So if we think about that, hold that picture and link it back to what you want as an ideal for all of the children, that what they take away is that feeling of the miracle of you being in there and noticing everything they're doing well.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
So we've talked about this miracle, and when I was there for my observations, I saw a lot of those things already happening. Now, if we think remember we've done the scaling before, when we've on a scale of 1 to 10, what we've just talked about is number 10. Definitely. You've got there. The miracles happen to everybody. You're on a 10, and when we discussed it before, you felt you were about a 6. So about a 6 on your way to get to a 10. What would be going on if we were at a 6.1, 6.2?
Probably Dean, Sean and Josh would manage the opening Eric bit, even if it's just coming through the door.
So to get you to a sense of about 6.1 or 2, there would be some thought around getting the reading books ready for them.
Come in, reading books out, probably sat at tables without interfering with other people.
And is there anything you need to do in order to make that happen?
Possibly need to revisit that with them, and I don't know, possibly make it clearer expectation to them.
So to get you to your next step, when you hope you're on about a 6.2, you're going to talk with the whole class and remind them of the early morning routines. Followed up by an individual conversation with each boy.
I think
Each boy separately.
I think that's certainly possible, definitely.
Each boy separately, which you feel is going to be more effective than working with them as a threesome.
I think individually. I think because the relationship we said earlier is better on a one-to-one. I think probably on a one-to-one basis.
And as you indicated earlier, what they need is different too.
Yeah.